is our third attempt for the day. Welcome back to the live stream. We're going to go YouTube only today. We're going to just absolutely make it happen. And man, I'm so sorry if you are actually striving along and trying to have this live stream with me today, all about mobile first design. This is the last attempt for the day before we give up and go back to bed. Anybody ever having that kind of Friday? It's that kind of Friday. Let's make that kind of Friday happen, shall we? All right, we are jumping in. Hey, if you are there, Stephen Brandt, have you been here the whole time, Stephen Brandt? You are the MVP of the stream. Stephen Brandt says he's got it. All right, we're gonna get going because as long as Stephen is here, I feel good about it. And you know what? We don't have time to mess around anymore. We got to get right into it. We got to cover this mobile first content and without hopefully any sort of interruption or distraction. So let's just do it, hope for the best, and we're gonna go ahead. This is mobile first. Again, as we are designing not mobile applications, but websites and thinking in a mobile first approach that way. And what is a mobile first approach? The mobile first approach to designing websites allows you to focus on what really matters and expand up to the superfluous, expand up to the awesome, amazing extra layout with the extra bells and whistles. But when we have a mobile first approach, we really anchor down to what matters most first. 5 points we're going to be talking about today for your mobile first approach. Number one is this: distill your offer. Work out the main goal of the page that you're on. Don't hesitate to make this a lot more prominent on your mobile version. That's right. What we're saying is, and if you look here to the example that we have going on here on the right hand side, trainline.com, we have this idea of finding a train ticket. On the desktop version of this, good morning to everybody in the live stream chat right now. In the desktop version of this, we might have gorgeous photos or video of trains. We might have secondary call to actions, navigation, right? Do you ever notice, why do we, when we get down to mobile, what are the reasons that we drop to a hamburger navigation like icon where we can tap it and open up multiple like elements or navigational elements? Well, obviously there's clutter. It's hard to display all those. It would take up a large portion of the real estate. Aha! But also, isn't it the fact that we would then be not distilling our offer? We would be showing all of the other stuff. All that stuff is open and available, about me, contact, whatever it is, right? In the navigation, it's there. But when we get to mobile, we need to simplify, we need to clarify, we need to distill it down. The only thing you see when you get to trainline.com here on the mobile version of the site is where are you coming from, where you want to go, let's book you a ticket. The functionality of the product, boom, that's all we're trying to get you to do. And so here's a couple tips and things to think about as you're designing in a mobile first approach. Maybe you have already started designing a website and you're looking at this big desktop thing. Do me a favor, just take a screenshot of that, pop it over into a FigJam, take that FigJam red marker and just start highlighting. What is the most important thing here? Highlight it. Number one, is there anything that might support it? Okay, fine. Put a smaller circle or arrow around that. You could call that 1.2. Do a bunch of those, right? But really what you should have is one large circled area. If you don't have one large circled area, your desktop or larger screen resolution is actually suffering just in general. If you don't actually know what you want the user to do, what's the most primary, most important thing there on the page, you already have a problem. I mean, you're going to have even more of a problem as you try to counterbalance multiple important things down on this tiny mobile device, right? It's not a lot of screen real estate, and we need to protect that screen real estate. Let's get to our second piece of the puzzle. The second thing you need to know when it is a mobile first approach where you're designing for mobile, and that is that you need to change the button size and placement. Every website is going to have buttons and links. They're in sections, they're in different areas, they're in forms, but a good button can very quickly become a bad button on mobile if it's in the wrong place or the wrong size. What we're describing here in this little graphic and that websitebuilderexpert.com has created for us is this idea called the rule of thumbs. The rule of thumbs states this: as I'm holding a device is much more like usable and enjoyable when anything can be accessed with one hand, right? And that's why, if you'll notice, I'm just going to clear a few of my notifications, right? That's why you'll notice on my device right now, where's the flashlight button? Where's the photo button for quick access? It's down at the bottom. Why is it not way up at the top? Because then to access my camera very quickly, I would have to figure out how to get my thumb all the way to the top, or reposition, take it out of this hand, use my good pointer hand, I'm a right-hander, and click it like that, and then rework it. It would be very uncomfortable. So the rule of thumb states that anywhere in here down below is good. Anywhere up here is okay. Anywhere up here is really, really bad. So that says that you might need to change where you place your buttons, where you place your links. Anybody notice that Google Chrome and Safari have a very different approach as browsers? Safari puts the URL bar at the bottom and Google Chrome puts theirs at the top. They're stating different prominence or importance of things, like depending on where they place it. Safari is very much so. They want you to browse. They want you to be able to access the URL very quickly, change the URL, open up a new tab, whatever it is. And Chrome is going to say on your device, on your mobile device, hey, that's actually not the most important thing. The content on the page is the most important thing. All right. So we still have some people complaining about freezing. I'm just going to continue on because that's all we can do at this point. All right. Let's go to our next slide, which should be, I'm having technical difficulties all over the place. Point number 3 is to use clear and legible fonts, right? When designing for mobile, it's important to use fonts that are clear and legible on a smaller screen. So we don't want to use a bunch of like display fonts. We don't want to use a bunch of, you know, like interesting, unique fonts. And we don't want to mix and match fonts. We want to use things that are clear, concise, easy to understand, avoiding things like cursive fonts and handwritten fonts. They're just not a good vibe when you get down to the mobile device. Why? Purely because of the size of them, right? We need that text content. It's 2023, content's still king, right? YouTube's amazing, images are amazing, video is amazing. They take a lot of bandwidth to load. We're going to talk about that later. But for now, what you need to know is that content, written content, is still king, right? So I need the labels inside of my buttons to be really clear. I need to understand what they say. I need to be able to see them at a glance. I need them to be reachable, like we've already talked about. But I just need all the fonts to be clear and legible. The more legible, the more clear you can actually make your fonts on something like the mobile device, the better you're going to be. Now, a couple of tips and tricks for you here when it comes to this. Don't use that light, ultra thin weight for whatever font you're using. Make sure you get a font family that has 7 to 8, 7 or more, let's just say, sizes or weights for your font, right? So it goes from ultra thin all the way up to super black or bold or whatever it is. And so you have a lot of room to play there, but never, ever, ever use anything that says thin, light, or ultra thin or light on your mobile device. It's going to kill your legibility. Also, don't use pure black on pure white or pure white on pure black. You want to make sure that the contrast is good, but you want to use some fonts that are strong, that have really clear characters, are spaced well. And if you need to manipulate character spacing, all that kind of stuff, make sure that you do that, okay? Because it is important. It is very, very important to make sure that you do that. Okay, let's go to our 4th point, and we are continuing on. This one is to optimize images and video. Before we talk about this one, let's just talk really quickly about the design critique that's coming up. We have an open design critique from a design champion community. So if you are a design champion, we're having this on May 16th. It's a live event with me and the rest of my design champs community, where people are going to be bringing their work, putting it on stage, quote unquote, and we're going to be talking about your work, giving you feedback and critique. If you're not a member of the design champs community, consider becoming a member. It's where all the dope things happen. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more about UI and UX design, I just got done releasing my intro to UI UX design course. The links to all of these things are down in the description. Consider becoming a member. Consider taking the course if you're now jump-starting your UI UX career, maybe transitioning from somewhere else, or just are struggling learning the disciplines of UI and UX design. Consider jumping on over to that. Let's go back. Optimizing images and video. Okay. Images and video are a great resource, right? When you're designing, they can enhance the user experience, but they can also slow down the loading time of your website, especially if we're dealing with mobile applications with heavy video. So optimizing images and video for mobile devices is great because it ensures a fast and seamless experience. This means just because you have, so many people are going to be guilty of this, me included, so just stick with me. Maybe you have one beautiful giant image for the hero, like image or something like that, or in some sort of like section. and you just go, we'll just resize that image. We'll take that same image that's 900 kilobytes or a megabyte in size, right? And we'll just make sure we shrink it down. It's not actually shrinking the file size. The browser still has to load the weight of that image. So if you upload into Webflow or Wix or Squarespace or whatever, a big old giant 1 or 2 megabyte image, you might get away with it. It's still not a great practice, but you might get away with it when people are in an office with a really fast internet connection. But if they're out and about driving in a car and they go to load your website, it's going to flicker, it's not going to show up, and it's not going to load. Same thing goes with video. So for every image or video that you have, you should also be exporting a smaller, much more mobile-friendly version, and you should be making the switch via like just some sort of like simple tag inside of your code, or you can also do this inside of all web builders to drop down to a different, to switch over which image you use. So you're gonna have to do that when you get down to mobile, otherwise you're gonna have massive loading issues. And the whole point of people visiting your website is to experience it. But if they can't experience it, they're out of there. They're going to bounce, right? So it's not going to matter at all how beautiful it could have been if the internet connection would have worked. Take our live stream today. I don't care how important this information is. This is my 3rd attempt of this live stream, and some of you are still struggling to see this live stream. It's jittering. It's not working great. I don't know why. And if I could figure out my internet connection, it would be all the more enjoyable for you, guaranteed. So I do apologize about that, but we are doing our best. And those that are really sticking around, man, awesome. Good on you. All right, let's jump to our last point of the day, and that is to test your design on multiple devices. Now, before you launch your website, test your design on multiple devices to ensure that it looks and functions properly across different screen sizes. Now, I have this like screenshot that I took of basically Google Chrome and like my developer tools open, because back in the day you used to actually have to go around and find different device types and try to test them out physically on those devices, because modeling just wasn't great. But now I'll say that if you just use something like your dev tools, right? Just open up Chrome, open up dev tools, and start using the responsive kind of like resizing. You can see it inside of different iPhone sizes, iPad sizes, Android devices, right? And so, you know, it's actually pretty decent now. And so at the very least, what you should be doing is you should be testing it inside of your developer tools, hitting all of these device sizes and seeing how things kind of line up. And I do want to point this out. I'm a big Webflow user. Like I use Webflow for all websites that I build. You know, you can design in Webflow and you can preview in desktop, laptop, tablet, mobile. Sure, that's fine. It's not going to hit all the nuances of different device types, but also Webflow is imaging or modeling it, and same thing with Wix or Squarespace or all of them. They're imaging or modeling using their own technology, their own quote unquote developer tools. And I would just trust the power of the browser more than I would trust the power of the company or the individual product. So I know you tested it in Webflow. I know you tested it in your Wix mobile viewer, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But make sure you're also testing it in the browser, because the browser, especially nowadays, right? Safari, Chrome, those are things that are available on the device. A lot of people use, even though Safari comes native inside of my iOS device as the default browser, I download Chrome, I use Chrome. So you're gonna have a similar experience across the board. So just use the developer tools in those browsers to get the best possible results as you're testing your designs, all right? I'm gonna open it up for Q&A right now, and we'll answer a couple of questions. Stephen Brandt says, the sites I manage for my company like to have hero images on every page at 85% viewport height. That's the VH measurement element on desktop. They sometimes have a logo for the department on the top of that. Any suggestions on how to optimize for mobile? Well, you can definitely drop down the quality of the image. Just because the image is massive doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be massive in size, right? So we have two different definitions of size. Width, right? Viewport width, viewport height, that's size, but then you also have the actual size of the file itself. So you can actually play around, definitely use something that can remove all the metadata out of the image itself. You can really reduce the file size that way, not the dimension size, but the file size. Also, as you're exporting these images, you can drop down file size there as well. And so I would definitely recommend that. I would try, man, I would be a huge proponent, just like we showed in the example before, of ditching the real large images, because the images are there to support, they're not to sell, they're not the primary. I would be a big proponent of ditching it for a brand color, which loads like that, because it's a hex value inside the CSS. But if you can't get them to do it, then I would just say make sure that you have a low file size, and also if you can for your logo, use SVG. That's going to be a much faster load. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Turkan says, Jesse, what's the best frame size and grid column in mobile web version? Yeah, you know, that's going to be a tough one. You know, I'll answer that because that's a two-parter. Best frame size or artboard size inside of your design tool, whether it's using Figma or Sketch or Adobe XD, it's going to vary on your, like really on your development team. What do they like to work with? What do they like to see? I always say use the Goldilocks method. Don't go for the biggest, don't go for the smallest. Find something that's just right in the middle. So don't find, you know, drop your artboard there for the iPhone 14 Pro Max Gold, amazing, bestest, biggest, giantest phone ever. And don't go for the iPhone SE, which is the tiniest, littlest thing. Find something in the middle. A lot of times right now, I like to fire up an iPhone 11 or 12. That's somewhere around 360 or 340 or something like that. That's pretty, no, 360 or 380. That's pretty reasonable in the middle for device size, and you just want to make sure you have plenty of cushion and flexibility around those. Also, the old Brad Frost mentality of designing mobile websites is to not actually think in specific device types, but just make it till you break it, right? So as you're moving down, don't think about breakpoints like, well, we have to find the iPad and the iPad Air and the Android this and the. We don't do that. We just make websites work until they no longer work, and then we establish a breakpoint and we fix things, okay? So we realign, we rework things. I think there's probably some drop dead zones as you start to drip into mobile. Anything down past 420 or 450 starts to immediately become mobile. You should probably switch to a lot more single column layouts, decreasing of imagery and video, highlighting your primary functionality, and relocating buttons below 450, 460-ish. It's probably what I would say. And then your grid columns that you should use, definitely shouldn't be using 12, but if you want to use 6, you want to use 4. I know some people that use 2. It's a little bit weird, but whatever floats your boat. I just don't think you should go above 6 probably, or below 2. You know, even when you have a single column layout, you're still using multiple columns to kind of fix and format things. So that's what I would say there. And then Masha says, hey Jesse, how do you think about open AI in the future? Is it a warning to designers' jobs? It's going to be a huge warning to bad designers' jobs, the designers that don't know how to do their job, designers who depend on doing nothing but the little nitty gritty like work that can be easily be replaced by machines and AI. Yeah, your job's in danger. If all you want to do is stay at the production level, junior designer level, and not kind of like move on to more creative, strategic levels of thinking, yeah, your job is going to be in danger at some point, right? Because I know that Webflow is releasing AI. I know Figma is integrating AI. I know everybody's integrating AI. I know UIZard, is that what it is? Wizard, UIZard, wizard.com. They're releasing their new UX AI tool where I can just say, I need a flow for, you know, a puppy food website, blah, 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 mobile application, and it'll just spit out multiple screens for you with layouts. Now you're going to take that, you're going to work upon that, you're going to build on that because it's not going to look perfect right off the bat. But I will say this, it's coming for the low-hanging fruit, the easy jobs, the jobs that we can automate, right? I have recently let go of somebody who was cutting up social media video for me and taking my long form content like this and distilling it down to short form content because I started using an AI tool that only cost me 20 bucks a month instead of $100 a month. Yeah, so that person is going to need to reconfigure their business plan and be a lot less production oriented and much more strategic or creative oriented. There will always be a place in this world for people who want a custom tailored suit. There's always going to be the people who want to go get the $50 suit at Men's Warehouse that they just pump out like this. It's not going to be sized right. It's not going to be the same experience. So there's always going to be that place, but the separation between the two is going to get very real in the next 3 to 5 years. So make sure you're on the side. If that's you, you're either on the side of customization, strategic thinking, creative thinking, or you figured out a way to master all of these tools and productize these tools and leverage them and use them to spit things out very quickly, very cheaply, very efficiently, the separation of those two is going to get very, very real in the next 3 to 5 years. So figure out which side you want to be on, pick a side, and just start rocking it. That's what I would say. There's a place for both. Hey, if you want to learn more, because UI and UX right now it's the time to learn UI and UX design. And if you don't know, if you're transitioning, you're not sure how to get into it, this course that I just released is jam-packed, full of value. It's a short course that's meant to actually spit you out the other side with a capstone project, with some career prep stuff, with some of those basics and foundationals of design, and some of the specifics of UI and UX design. So you'll learn a little bit about wireframing. You'll learn a little bit about high fidelity design. You're gonna learn about color typography, all those things, as well as how to build your first portfolio piece and how to interview well. So this might be the course for you if you're like, I want to get started. AI is scaring me. Don't be scared. You need to learn the design thinking that takes place in this course, and then maybe you can thrive. Also, if you want to get your work reviewed, definitely come and think about becoming one of my design champions. Our next design critique, our live events happening May 16th. It's literally the price of, it's $15 a month. It's the price of 2 almond lattes, right? So just forego 2, pumpkin spice pistachio skim milk lattes, and you get to have live interactions with me. Design champs also get behind the scenes footage, special posts that nobody else, exclusive posts that nobody else gets. Get to I answer questions and talk with my design champs in my Circle community. It's all built on Circle. It's super dope. You would love to be a part of it. That's it. We finally made it. We were able to get through 3rd time's the charm today. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. Thank you for sticking around. Thanks for the great questions. And I hope that you guys are out there crushing your mobile designs. We got a lot more web design content coming up soon. So stick around, maybe click one of these videos up here if you're watching the replay, and we will see you later.